Hello and welcome back to A Shark's Perspective. Entrepreneurs, like all business leaders, and I see this all the time in my own consulting efforts, suffer from often not knowing what they don't know. And again, like many business leaders, they sometimes chase what their competitors are doing and then invest too much time and money into something and become too reactive to the next problem. But what's the next thing that entrepreneurs or anyone should fix? The business problem that's most immediate or the one that's most impactful? Mike Michalowicz is the entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million-dollar companies, an entrepreneurial advocate, a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and the author of several books, including his newest, Fix This Next. And on this episode, we'll discuss life as an entrepreneur, identifying what to fix now versus what to fix next, Maslow's hierarchy versus Mike's hierarchy of business needs, Harley-Davidson tattoos, disseminating knowledge, toilet paper hoarding, Wolfgang Puck, Bobby Flay, and a lot more. So let's tune in to an entrepreneurial advocate with an entrepreneurial shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Mike, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, please give us a brief background of your career to date.
Yeah, Kenneth, thank you for having me.
Course.
So I've been an entrepreneur my entire adult life. 10 years ago, I had what I feel is a calling. I lost all my money. It's a little more than 10 years ago. And it woke me up to, I don't really understand entrepreneurship as much as I thought I did. And I decided to start writing about what makes entrepreneurship work by researching and writing books. And so for the last 10 years now, I've been a full-time author writing small business books.
But you've still got two businesses now, right? I think I saw on your
actually
website.
4. Yeah,
It's just
so
4,
I operate
5 or 6.
4 or 5 or 6. Yeah, 4 companies. But I consider myself a shareholder of those businesses.
Sure.
I've helped start them. I'm a spokesperson for the organizations in 2 cases, but there's a president running those companies, and that's one of the privileges of being an author is I develop content that can turn into a business. And I've also been approached by businesses like there's this augmented reality company that approached me to be on the board to help direct their company. So that is definitely a privilege of being an author.
Well, you mentioned on your site that you ran those and you test out your research. Elaborate, if you will, what you mean by testing out your research, because I love that comment.
Yeah. So, as I research out these concepts of different businesses and try to consolidate it to a simple system, I need a guinea pig. And so my readers that own businesses volunteer, but also I want to run up my own business. So one of my companies here, it's called Profit First Professionals, and it's small with 12 employees, but we're testing concepts around employee engagement. How do you get employees acting like owners? That's a common question I get. So we've been researching it now for we're about 2 years into it, and we're running tests on our company. And finding stuff that works is highly impactful and counterintuitive, and finding stuff that doesn't work. And we'll continue on for another year or two and test out with other companies once we have the formula figured out. And then it becomes a book. So when I write a book, it's usually 5 years in before the book is produced because of the test.
So what was the inspiration for your newest book, Fix This Next? How did you approach it differently than, say, from your other books?
Yeah. So I came up with a thesis, and for me to come up with a thesis, it's pretty simple. I just survey my readership now. In the beginning, it was hard because I didn't have a readership, but now I just ask entrepreneurs, like, what do you need now? And what I found in the thesis of Fix This Next is the biggest challenge business owners have is knowing what their biggest challenge is.
Yeah,
we're in confusion, and particularly when there's macro shifts going on, when the economy, recession, those things. It really brings this rush to do all these apparent issues we have, but not addressing the impactful one. And at any given time, any business has one most important issue that needs to be addressed. It's true for any circumstance. It can only ever be one most of anything. So what's the one most important issue? So I developed a tool called the Business Hierarchy of Needs that helps a business owner very quickly identify the one thing they need to work on right now to move the business forward. Once that's addressed, what's the next one thing they need to work on?
So in that business hierarchy, kind of unpack that and what you saw as far as each layer of the pyramid.
Yeah. So the business hierarchy of needs, I translated from Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but it has a significant and extremely important difference. So Maslow studied human needs, and proposed what's now called the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and says foundationally there's certain needs that must be addressed above all else. And
Hmm.
then those are what's called physiological needs.
Hmm.
We need to breathe air, eat food, drink water. And then once those needs are adequately satisfied and can support the next level, we move on to that. The next level of Maslow's hierarchy is safety needs. We need shelter, warmth, clothing. And then you continue up and it goes to esteem and ultimately self-actualization, meaning living life's purpose. Well, we are instinctually wired into ourselves, like our eyes seeing, our ears hearing, touch, taste, all those elements work collectively to give us an instinctual uh, call to action, if you will. For example, right now we're talking, this could be considered an experience in self-actualization or esteem, the higher levels of Maslow's hierarchy. But if I'm eating a hamburger while we're talking, I start choking on it and my airway is blocked, all of a sudden I will inherently and automatically revert to choking and coughing and trying to get it out because I can't get air, a physiological need. So we are wired to automatically adjust our behavior to meet the most foundational need that's not satisfied. Now, when it comes to our business, there's 5 levels of needs a business has, but the significant difference is we are not wired in. We're not neurologically wired to our business, but many business owners, including myself, I thought, yeah, I can just trust my gut. I know why we need this. We need more sales. We need to get a rainmaker in here. We got to jack up prices or cut prices. I was making these gut calls responding to stimulus, but I'm not neurologically wired in my business. The only thing we really have is data. We need to validate through data. So first what we do is we have to understand the 5 levels of needs in the business hierarchy. Foundationally, every business does need sales, the creation of cash. Then we need profit, which is the creation of stability for an organization, the retention of cash. Then we need order, which is the creation of efficiency. Ultimately, we have then impact, the higher level. Impact is the creation of transformation. Instead of giving or having transactions where we're selling commodity, we are now doing something that impacts and change people's lives. The highest level then is legacy. Legacy is the creation of permanence, a business that's designed to live into perpetuity, absent the leadership team, that there's intentional churn in the organization in regards to who's in command and control. Well, at any given moment, my business will have a challenge. The question is, where is the challenge? And if we trust our instinct, it often fails us. In difficult times, and as we're recording this, we're going through a major transition right now
Hmm.
globally. As we're experiencing this, many business owners instinctually trust in their gut are saying, I need to sell more. I need more sales right away. But the question is, do we have a challenge creating cash, or do we have a challenge in creating stability?
Sure.
Is it really a stability issue? Do I need more stability in my organization? If we need more stability, it's likely a profit issue. We got to be focusing on margin. We got to be identifying the clients that actually yield profitable sales, as opposed to anyone is a good client. So just reverting to what our gut says is sometimes, or usually, not the answer. What I want the business hierarchy of needs to be is a compass, a way to check our gut and then make a decision.
So in chapter 2, you talk a lot about finding it and fixing it. And I think you openly talk about something I find often as well with a lot of entrepreneurs and struggles I've gone through as well is just being able to focus. I think part of that's because of my attention deficit disorder problems. But, you also talk about tunnel vision and that focus that I think so many people, with a lot of small businesses, you can kind of yell squirrel and they'll get diverted onto something and overly focus on it way too often. Elaborate on that a little bit with your own story and what you've seen in others.
Yeah, so we definitely emulate others and go for the hot topic. I call it the stream of the apparent.
Yeah.
What I mean by this is we have a vision for our business. If you think about the very first day you started the business, or if you bought into it, day one, hours before opening the doors, there's excitement, there's trepidation, there's fear, but there's a vision. It's like, this is going to be my multi-million dollar business, or this is going to yield a lifestyle I've always dreamed of. The second we open the door, all that stuff's out the window. And now it's like just panic ensues. I got to sell something to somebody. I got to fix this. And we're jumping all over the place. One thing that's very apparent is we just look at what's our competition doing. Oh my gosh, they're marketing on TikTok, wherever the new hot social media is. I got to do that too. And we put this invest you know a resource that we can't ever get back, time.
Hmm.
We invest time into something that doesn't correlate to what our business needs now. Um, our agenda is more dictated by our email than it is our vision.
Yes.
So what we're looking to do is first understand that business owners, because we're human, have an action or a trigger event happen. An email comes in, a competitor, comes around, economy shift. Then we go into reaction. So there's trigger reaction or action reaction. We're constantly in the what do I need to do now, and it shifts. But what I'm trying to do with Fix This Next is put in the necessary contemplation between the trigger and the action or the reaction. I want to have contemplation. I want something to happen, and then simply, and it only takes a few seconds, is to consider where does this fall in my hierarchy of needs for my business, and where is my biggest need within my business now. If this doesn't fall with where my biggest need is, we're going to shelve it and save it. If it is my biggest need, then it's something that gets addressed. So it's really simply introducing a pregnant pause to evaluate what we need to do. And business owners that tackle the one most important issue and stay with that are the ones moving their businesses forward. Businesses that are going after all the apparent issues will notice after months and years of constantly going in circles that the business isn't moving forward, and that working harder and longer hours doesn't seem to be driving much. And I hope to awaken people to, this rush to the apparent issues is not what's going to change your business. It's focusing on the one impactful thing.
Do you think any of that changes though? And I was thinking about this as I was getting prepped for this interview. I mean, I read this book prior to the world just exploding with anxiety and the COVID crisis. But do you think any of that will change? Will the pressure, the shift in focus, if you will, really be immense with where a lot of entrepreneurs go now that there's even that much more pressure during what could be a impactful recession?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think an impactful recession is on its way as we're recording this. It depends when people listen to us, and they'll see if we predicted this appropriately. But I think a major recession.
Some creative editing will make it sound like we predicted the entire thing.
That would be funny. That'd be funny. We nailed this one.
Yeah.
But what happened is a trigger event. And before recessions, before the 2001 recession, we had the terrorist attacks. Before 2008, the housing decline. Those are trigger events. And what happens with a trigger event is people scatter. We duck. And that's not the time to react. That's simply the action. I see many business owners right now saying, oh my gosh, I need to cut costs. I need to change sales. And I'm like, well, why are you cutting costs? Why are you cutting sales? Because they're like, because what's coming? I'm like, well, are you sure it's coming? And if you're cutting costs now, are you cutting stuff that could be productive when other businesses are cutting costs? Should you be actually redirecting some of your costs to better marketing right now? So I think people overreact too quickly. You can see it with the toilet paper run. All of a sudden, someone buys toilet paper and then everyone starts buying toilet paper and now the toilet paper's gone. And it's like, so there's some people sitting with like a warehouse of toilet paper at their house. Like, what are you going to do with that? But at a certain point, a panic becomes a reality. So the people that didn't buy toilet paper, me being one of them, it's actually hard to source toilet paper.
I know.
So what we need to do as business owners is when you hear that gunshot, don't go running toward or away from the gunfire. Just sit there for a second and observe, pause, then say, how can this be an opportunity for me? What should I adjust in my business? So I'm telling people in the immediate impact right now is don't change anything about your business. Keep things status quo. You had a vision and plan, but be very close. Keep your ear to the ground and monitor. If you start losing clients, we were going to have to adjust. But by cutting costs, maybe that's not the solution. Here's one example. If you start losing clients, maybe you're going to lose 10% of your clients. That happens in many recessions. But realize your competitors will lose 10% of clients. Maybe your big competitors. One of my businesses, we have 450 clients. They're in the accounting and bookkeeping space. Well, we have a big competitor that has about 10 times. They have 5,000 clients. If we lose 10%, we're losing 45 clients. That impacts my business. Mm-hmm. But they're going to lose 10%. They're going to lose 500 clients. Let me not look at the 45 I lost and say, what am I going to do? Let me look at the 500 that are being lost by the big competitor and saying, how am I going to serve them? Because, clients in the recession, everyone's reacting. This is a trigger for them to say, you know what? I didn't like doing business with this company anyway. Here's my justification to leave them. So now I have 500 prospects that have left a competitor that are going to need some form of service. Can I pick up 10 or 15% of them? Well, now I added 50 or maybe even 75 clients to my business. So we just got to move with pause and consideration, not with overreaction.
Could not agree more. This is just such an amazing time to be able to think of this as opportunity. I don't want to be too overly optimistic either, but people have got to understand they're planting seeds with customers, and these are going to grow. It's so. Chapter 7, you talk about evolving from transaction to transformation with impact. I thought that was a really good chapter as well, and unpack that chapter. What you mean by that evolution?
Yeah. So what's interesting here is businesses that move to this level. There's basically two distinct stages in these five levels. The first
Hmm.
three levels are about getting. We need to get sales. We need to get profit. We need to get efficiency throughout our organization. If you achieve those elements, then you have the ability to give. So you need to get to give. And the give level is impact and legacy. Well, with an impact, it's where you realize that you're not competing on a commodity here. That your offering is not just a replaceable offering, it is something of greater meaning to your customers. One example could be like Harley Davidson. You can buy a motorcycle anywhere, but you buy a Harley Davidson, you're now part of the Harley Davidson family. You're part of a tribe. And you maybe even get a tattoo on your shoulder saying Weekend Warrior. You belong to something, and it's of greater meaning than the item itself. And we all have this ability. If you're a chimney cleaner, I worked with the Chimney Cleaners Association. You can be selling the transaction of a clean chimney, or you can be selling the impact of roaring safe fires, particularly when people are, socially distancing themselves and,
Yeah.
and staying sheltered at home. Like you can offer that transformation. And it's not just selling that benefit, because I realize it's a benefit. It's really having that ingratiated as part of your offering, that you're transforming lives and people feeling that experience. Now, when you customers say to you, "You've changed my life in some way, some small or big way, it doesn't matter, but you've changed my life," that's when you've moved on to be in service of an impact level.
So in Fix This Next, and this is really in your latest book, but really in your latest evolution of yourself as an entrepreneur, have you found that focusing on sales, for example, because you address sales a lot in this book, and it's something that entrepreneurs struggle with.
Mm.
They learn it the hard way that you can't be one of Zig Ziglar, as he referenced, a shy salesperson, skinny kid. But do you
Yeah.
find that any one form of, whether it's sales or you reference marketing or anything else, that has been more impactful in your own entrepreneurial journey and what you see in others that they need to focus more on today?
Yeah. So what's interesting about this business hierarchy of needs is that it is a cycle, or it's not a ladder. You don't just kind of climb up. And
Right.
so in the work I've done, I feel parts of it have been at a legacy level of creating something of permanence that's going to live beyond me. But that doesn't mean like I've climbed this ladder. Now I'm at the legacy level. I'm just going to sit up here. Just like every business, I got to cycle down to where my most imminent, important, impactful, vital need is. And um, right now, it's actually in sales. And what you and I are doing, um, admittedly, is part of sales, right? So building
Oh,
awareness is
absolutely.
part of the sales. So hopefully we're collectively benefiting. But thank you so much, Kent, because you have me on your show. You're exposing me to an audience that hasn't heard me before, I hope. And this is true for all organizations, regardless of your size. I studied the companies like GE. GE has to go back and focus on sales, but it doesn't mean you stay exclusively there. But the other thing is, it's not like we turn on one switch and turn off the other. So once sales are back and running effectively, then we may have to move toward a focus on resolving issues at the profit level, but sales continue on. This is like a structure, like building a building. If I want to build a 5-story building, you got to start at the foundation. But if I build the foundation massively and I put a little tool shed as the first floor, it's going to fall within the foundation. So that's not going to work. And if I build a little foundation that's the size of a tool shed and I put Freedom Tower on top of it, it's going to crush the foundation. So you have to build these in relation to each other, and you keep on cycling back down to make sure the base is strong enough to support the level above it, and so forth.
Mike, you're in New Jersey. We talked about having a tattoo of a Harley on your shoulder, but I actually have a tattoo of a great white on my shoulder. But they have a nice aquarium in New Jersey. So I asked this of all my guests: what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
So my favorite shark is probably a sand shark. They're small
Yeah.
sharks, and that's actually what I went fishing once. The very first quote unquote fish I ever caught was a shark. It was a sand shark, and I just fell in love with the beauty of that animal and the speed and the power, even though it's so small. So just yeah, if I think of sharks, I always think of sand shark first.
Yeah, I was just petting, and I wasn't supposed to, just petting a nurse shark about 2 weeks ago. So any of those that are kind of the friendly sharks are nice. But Mike, it's a special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting and important questions you're going to be asked today?
Yeah, lay them on me.
All right, number 1, being a podcaster, speaker, and author, or being an entrepreneur?
Author. Yeah, if I had to pick anyone, it's author first.
Well, so if you think of being a podcaster, speaker, author, all of those combined, or being an entrepreneur, what's your favorite?
yeah, still the author, speaker, podcaster. I just think there's power in disseminating knowledge.
Yeah, and that's a great chapter as well about giving instead of getting. So, and I like that pivot in your career. Number 2, profit first or the toilet paper entrepreneur, previous books?
Profit first. Profit first is my most popular book, and over 300,000 companies have implemented the system.
Wow.
I just see the power of it, and I'm very honored to be a cog in that process. That I'm part of that experience.
No kidding. Well, we did talk about getting toilet paper. So speaking of a good place to hoard toilet paper, Costco or Sam's Club?
We're Costco members.
There you go.
So Costco's it.
Number 4, and you reference these guys in the book, Wolfgang Puck or Bobby Flay?
Bobby Flay. I'll tell you why Bobby Flay. Bobby Flay, I heard a backstory about him.
And he's a Jersey guy.
I think he is a Jersey guy. I didn't know anything about him. Just, celebrity cook. These guys, celebrity chef, I should say. I heard a story. A young girl with a terminal disease and said, "My dream is to meet Bobby Flay." Bobby got the message while en route somewhere, redirected his flight, came and visited her. And I was like, "Holy crap, that's awesome."
Yeah, it is. That is indeed. And I also feel like I could almost either afford or cook like Bobby Flay. I could afford something he could cook. Wolfgang, every time you go in, it's ridiculous, but it's great food as well. Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Biscuits, hands down, especially from what's that restaurant chain? Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel,
God
man.
bless you. Yes, thank you. Finally, somebody that knows. So, Mike, where can people find out more about you, get a copy of the new book, Fix This Next, find your site, and more?
Thanks for allowing me to share this. So fixthisnext.com is the website for my book. And I have a free evaluation there too. So you can evaluate your business, identify what needs to be fixed next. It's free and it takes probably under 5 minutes to evaluate your business. And then more information on me is at mikemotorbike.com. It's actually Mike Michalowicz. No one can spell that. So mikemotorbike.com as in the motorcycle. Go there. All my books, you can get chapter downloads. I used to write for the Wall Street Journal. All that stuff's there for free.
Mike Michalowicz, thank you so very much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you, Shark.
So there was my conversation with Mike Michalowicz, the entrepreneur behind 3 multi-million-dollar companies, an entrepreneurial advocate, a former small business columnist for the Wall Street Journal, and the author of several books, including his newest, Fix This Next. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with him. First, so Mike, through the lens of an entrepreneur, asked his own entrepreneurial audience what they needed. What he discovered, and I'll quote, is, "The biggest challenge business owners have is knowing what their biggest challenge is." And that's true not only of entrepreneurs, but also for a lot of leaders in big business as well. How many times do you rush to fix something you see as an immediate problem rather than the one that has the most impact? I see this all the time as well with entrepreneurs who look at sales as the fix to any problem. Smart CEOs will tell you that's often just a band-aid fix for a short period of time. But Mike created his own version of Maslow's hierarchy of needs as to a business hierarchy of needs. He breaks it down in the pyramid at the bottom to top with sales, profit, order, impact, and legacy. So definitely take a look at that and how it impacts you and your business. Second, typical problem for many people is that we look at what others are doing and then think that we have to do this because the competitors are doing something like this. It sometimes reminds me of how business leaders get trapped in the prison of 2 ideas. One that they're doing and one that you have to be doing because they're doing it as well. And for many people, they start running down the wrong rabbit hole just because it seems like the right path to keep busy. This is often true when he said, and I quote, "Our agenda is more dictated by our email than it is our vision." It's so true how people jump too quickly into reaction mode without keeping their eyes on the prize. So all he's asking is that between the trigger and the reaction, he wants to add another step of contemplation to stop and help you see, does this fit your biggest need? Business owners that go after apparent problems, as in every leak, are not necessarily moving forward if they're too busy sticking their fingers in every dike, instead of plugging the one first that's letting the most water in the boat. Stay focused on fixing the biggest problems that deliver the most impact. Third, are you cutting costs today? We see this all the time now. Fear so often drives too many business leaders to do the wrong thing. It's why people are cutting costs instead of making investments, and it's when panic becomes a reality. He reminds us to observe and then pause and then look to see how this can be an opportunity for you and how you should adjust. Look, it's a hard choice when times are tough and when you start losing customers, but it's a great reminder that your competition is also losing customers at the same time during all of this. Don't forget your vision and how you should make sure customers understand the value that they get from your product or service. How do you continue to overserve your customers better than anyone else should? That should be the question you're asking yourself today, and then move with pause and consideration, not overreaction. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Chase one rabbit, my friends, and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.